Okay, guys, let me know if you can hear me. Just message me in the chat or whatever. Okay, we're gonna get started here in about 2 minutes. Just gonna give everybody a couple seconds to get in here, and then we'll get started. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So today I'm gonna be talking to you guys mainly about level 2 charting and some indicators that I use personally. But first, before we get into that, I'm gonna go over my trades for the day on the small account since I didn't get to do a recap. I actually did make one trade on the account today. It was for about 60 bucks. So I traded VHC. The reason I traded this stock was because it was up yesterday on news that it has used in the past. News about this lawsuit with Apple, I believe. And so, I've seen this stock run before, and looking in the past, this stock has zero revenue. It's a pretty shitty company. So overall, I was just looking for, today I was looking for weakness, and that's what I found. Unfortunately, as you can see, as per my entry and exit here, I didn't hold very long. I piked it, but unfortunately, that's just the way it goes. I wanted to get in and out quick. I wasn't super interested in, overstaying because I knew that this was an easy to borrow stock. Which means that it's made available for most brokerages to short very easily. So I knew that I wanted to get short here at the open, and I was risking off this 450 level. I put it out in the chat that if we popped up above this 450 level, then I would consider it a long. But anything below 450, I was thinking this is just going to fade, and that's exactly what we got. So my entry here was 419, and I ended up covering at 393. I hit lows of 337, but I had things to do today, so I wasn't just going to sit here and watch this fade all day. But looking back, I would rather have done that and made a little bit more money and maybe rescheduled a couple of doctor's appointments. But anyways, that was my one trade for the day. Those are my favorite setups. The ones that the company is just using, previous news, or they have an event coming up and it's going to be a sell the news scenario. So those are my favorite type of trades. I make most of my money off of those. And unfortunately today, I didn't really take full advantage of it, but that's just the way it goes. So anyways, that was my trade today. So while I have you guys right here, I'm going to be talking about level 2. Level 2 is one of the most useful tools for a trader, in my opinion. And a lot of people don't even know about it. They don't even know that it exists. So when you're trading, a lot of people know about charts. So charts are the visual representation of the price action, what has already happened. And then if you come over here where the mouse is, you have this little box here. So, most brokerages are going to have level 2. You have to pay for it. It's extra. But brokers like Robinhood and, low commission, cheapy kind of brokerages are not going to have level 2, and you're missing out, because level 2 is a really handy tool that shows you your supply and demand in real time, and there's lots of little tricks that are played in it that you learn over time, that I'm not going to really get into today. I'm just teaching you guys the very basics of it. But you know, level 2 has made me a lot of money, and it took a little while to personally for me to get going with it. But after I, you know, started using it and understanding it along with the chart, it reads like a language, and you know, it's a totally different language, but knowing both of these together, the chart, level 2, is it can be very lucrative for you. So let's get down to the basics of how level 2 is set up. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you guys can, you know, get the real idea. So we're focusing in here. So this is level 2, this box. Down here in this bottom section, you have where you are going to be entering your orders. So if you're on Robinhood or another brokerage, it may not look like this, but you know, on this broker, for example, SureTrader, you know, and any broker that uses DOS, the DOS platform, is going to have a setup like this. So on this side right here, you have your share count. This is where you can enter how many shares you want to buy or short. Down below that is the route you want to use. If you want to make it or sorry, not the route, but the order type, you can make it a limit order, which is always recommended. You can make it a market, which is not recommended, and you could set a stop. So those are some of the things you can play around with on that side. If you hit these little arrows, it'll put your position up by 100 shares. So this P button right here means just loads your position in, whatever position you have in the stock right now. And I have no position, so it's going to load nothing. Where it says display, you can write in 100 shares, and you'll only be showing 100 shares on the market when you could be trying to buy 5,000, but you're only showing 100. And that's where a lot of that's where some of the tricks in level 2 come into play. So you'll see 100 shares sitting in the market, and somebody's trying to buy 5,000, and you see a lot of shares being sold into it, and you know that somebody's trying to buy more than 100, and likely much more. So right here is where you enter in the price, whatever price you want to execute it at. So in this case, if I wanted to hit the bid, I put in 352, the bid. So the rest of this, not really important. So let's jump into the basics up here, where it says ARCA, EDGX, NASDAQ, AMEX, all that. These are all your market makers. You'll see sometimes in an advanced topic, you'll see that some market makers will play certain games, and you'll start to notice and memorize those. But anyways, so this is your market makers. Right here's the price at which somebody is trying to buy or sell, and then here's your size. So it works in terms of, so if it says 10, it's really 100, or sorry, it's really 1,000, and if it says 1, it's 100. So so basically this side right here is your demand. You have to think of level 2 as supply and demand. So on this side, the left side is always going to be your buyers or your demand for the stock. So everybody on this side of the box, split into two, on the left side is going to be your demand or buyers. And then on the opposite side, you have your supply, where you have sellers. So these people are trying to offload their position or sell something or short. So you can start to see how this works. So when we have, you know, stock that is probably bullish, we're going to see large bids come in. So you'll see over here at 352, there'll be, you know, a large amount of buyers waiting. And then over here, you'll see sellers being, for lack of better words, being taken out. You'll see these numbers going down when the stock is being bullish. So up here, you have your level 1 information, just basic VWAP, you know, the ticker name, all that. But just to recap here, because I went over that a little bit quick. So on your left side, you have your demand, and that is your buyers. Right side, supply, sellers. So once you get a feel for how the market works, it all comes down to supply and demand. And I like to use level 2 side by side with time and sales. So as you can see here, I have it set up where I have the chart, time and sales, and level 2, and it all works very well together. And I wish the market was open right now so you guys could see this moving, but unfortunately it's not moving. But in real time, this is moving a little bit quicker. You can see how that you can see the market interacting in real time. So all right, back to level 2 a little bit more. So if I wanted to immediately sell a stock, I would have to go to a buyer and I would sell to the buyer. And at this current time, if I had shares of VHC, I would sell. The best I could get for it is $3.52, and I could sell on that. Or I could join the offer up here at $3.59 or lower it down to $3.58 and see what I can get. Inversely, if I wanted to buy the stock immediately, I would have to purchase it at $3.59, and that would be called hitting the ask. So that's just the basics of level 2. If you guys would like me to make a detailed video going a little bit slower over that, then I can. I have done that in the past, but it seems like most people unfortunately don't use level 2, and even when you tell them that there's advantages, they just seem to not want to. Maybe that's not the right word. It looks a little bit intimidating, but honestly guys, level 2 is very simple. Like if you just take it down to the basics, buyers and sellers, demand, supply, you'll get it. And then you combine it with your time and sales and chart, you're fine. Okay, so if anybody has any questions about level 2, put them in the chat right now and I'll answer them right here. Put them in the general chat would probably be best while I look at what we're going to talk about next. All right, just a few more seconds for those who might have questions on level 2. Put them in the chat. I'll give you guys about a minute left. Okay, so we have a question for level 2. What's the key thing you look for in level 2 to confirm your technical analysis? Okay, so today on VHC, for example, let's pull up the charts, make it a little bit bigger, and pull up the level 2. So here on VHC, I was looking for weakness in the stock. So I wanted to see, as you can see here at the open, we had a large amount of sellers come in, but specifically on level 2, I was looking for, I was looking exactly for. So we see the bid here. So let's pretend when the market opened that it was at $3.52. Okay, we know it wasn't, but we're just gonna pretend. So at the open, I was looking for the bid right here to be sold into on the time and sales. So I would want to see this 10 turn into a 0 and then move down to 351 and then take out that 3 and then, you know, keep moving down. So I'd want to see a lot of selling on the demand side. I want to see people selling into the bid. And every time we had any buyers come in this morning, we saw the sellers coming in and just take them out on the bid. So this bid today was just getting crushed here at the bell. So we just see 352 sells come in, and then they move it down. 351, sell all those. 350, sell all those, and there was no chance for the buyers to take back control over the sellers. So essentially that's what I was looking for this morning on VHC. But in general, for level 2 to confirm my technical analysis, you know, it just has to be going with the overall idea that I'm looking for. So if I have a bearish technical analysis and the stock is under VWAP, or I have some other reasons that I want the stock to show weakness or strength, I'm going to be looking for that in level 2. So, if I'm looking for a breakout, I want to see, so if I'm looking for a stock to go up, in the most basic terms, if I want the stock to go up, I want to see these buyers come in and take out the sellers. And I want to see each time we move up, so 352, I want to see 353 come in with new buyers, and then I want to see this 359 taken out. And just every time we keep going up, the buyers are overpowering the sellers. So that's essentially, demand is way more than your supply, and you're going to have the stock go up. And inversely, with VHC today, the supply was overwhelming the demand. So supply and demand is huge. So most of the time I'm just looking for that kind of confirmation. And then another question, what info am I looking for in level 2? I feel like I just kind of went over that. Volume, yeah. Volume is definitely something I'm looking for, but that's not necessarily level 2. But yeah, I feel like what I just went over was good enough. If you guys have any more questions on level 2, just throw them in the chat and I'll answer them. So I'm going to go over now. Yeah, you're welcome. So I'm going to go over now the type of indicators that I'm using personally. So a lot of times you'll see traders, and if this is you, please don't take offense to it. Everyone has their own way of trading, but me personally, I like to keep it pretty simple. So as you can see on my daily chart up here, this shows each one of these candles is going to represent 1 day's worth of price action. So as you can see on my daily chart, I have no indicators. I just have volume and price. A lot of indicators, in my opinion, just make a lot of noise, and they just kind of cloud your overall judgment on the stock and give you these false ideas. But some people do really well with indicators. Me personally, I like to keep it simple and just have nothing for the daily chart. Excuse me. So yeah, so the daily chart, I don't really have anything, but that's not necessarily true for my intraday trading. I'll have pivot points and VWAP. So my most used one is going to be VWAP. So let's see if I can find a good example. VWAP, because it's the volume weighted average price. So this is a very, very popular tool used by a lot of traders, and that's essentially why I'm using it, because I know a lot of traders in the market are using they're basing their decisions off of how the stock is reacting to VWAP. So in this case here, ANFI this morning, it cannot hold above VWAP, and as you can see, also the pivot point that I have set up on here actually pretty much got the top there. Well, not pretty much, it got it exactly, and it got the bottom as well. So these pivot points were on there before the stock did this. So pivot points are a great way to have targets for a stock. So I'll get into pivot points in a second, but VWAP is something that I use personally. It's a very, very popular, a lot of institutions use it and a lot of retail traders use it. So that makes it one of the one of the most used indicators by far. So how you calculate VWAP, let's say you're not near a chart, but you know some of the information. VWAP is calculated by the number of shares bought times the share price divided by the total number of shares bought. It's much easier just to put it on your chart, so you don't have to do any math. Me personally, I just have it on my chart. I wish I had some better examples of this right now, but essentially, VWAP, if the stock is over VWAP, in the most basic sense, it's strong. The stock is steady, and if it's under VWAP, then it's going to be considered weak. So you have to keep in mind, though, that in this case right here, the stock popped up over VWAP, and you're like, okay, it's strong, but it failed above VWAP as well. So you want to see the stock holding those key levels. So let's see here. Okay, so here's a good example. Sorry. So SAEX today, failed above VWAP here and crashed below, and it was used as a resistance point throughout the day, this blue line here, and and then at the end of the day squeezed up above it, and then after hours it's pushing higher. So I could get into a lot more on VWAP, but essentially it's just a popular indicator that a lot of people use. You can use it to your advantage, knowing that there are games that are played with it, with institutions and all that kind of stuff. So you just have to keep that in mind. I can do a much more detailed video on VWAP if you guys want, along with level 2. But I'm trying to just keep this down to the very basics, because I know quite a few of you guys just use, Robinhood, or, you may be using a online, a broker where you're not using a charting program. Sometimes people don't even look at charts. And that's very common. So I'm just trying to keep this pretty basic, because I don't want to overwhelm you guys with information. And some people don't even know what they're looking at here. So if you guys just pretend this is, if you guys don't know how to read candlestick charts, just pretend this is just a line chart. Line charts are the most basic charts. Candlesticks are a little bit more, give you a little bit more information. So for pivot points, I have a pretty good video I want to show you guys. Explains it a lot better than me, but it gives you a pretty good idea. So as you can see here on ANFI, I have these pivot points set up, and it hit them perfectly. And then with VHC as well, as you can see here, so this morning we had the pivot point here, right? And I ended up covering here because of this first pivot point, and also I was just nervous in the stock because could have done a few things, but so I ended up covering here at this pivot point, and as you can see, that was the basis for the morning, and then it faded after around 10 o'clock. But anyways, pivot points are very, very useful. So I'm going to play this video real quick, and then we'll talk about another indicator that I use. So let's see.
A pivot point is a technical indicator that is derived by calculating the numerical average of a financial asset's high, low, and closing prices. A pivot point helps traders predict a security's short-term movement and is seen as a turning point that can signal a minor or major change in direction. The most common method for calculating a pivot point is the 5-point system. It takes the previous day's high, low, and close, as well as 2 support levels and 2 resistance levels. These numbers are plugged into the following series of equations to find a pivot point. A variation of this method incorporates opening price using the following formula. Day traders use pivot points as leading indicators to help them assess overall market trends and choose entry and exit points for their positions. These points are especially useful in identifying stop-loss levels and profit targets. Pivot points also help traders identify whether the market is bullish or bearish. When used in conjunction with other technical analysis tools, pivot points can help day traders increase their odds of executing profitable trades. Pivot points can be calculated on a weekly basis for use by swing traders or on a monthly basis for position traders to estimate upcoming support and resistance levels. However, because pivot points are a predictive tool, the potential movements they indicate don't always turn out to be correct.
Okay, so basically that's pivot points. I'm not gonna try to be the guy that knows it all and explain that to you guys, so I figured the best way would just be to show you guys a video of someone who is pretty experienced with it. But I know how they work, and I use them to a point where I'm not trusting them with all my trades, but they give me a good idea of based on mathematics and statistics, where I can get key levels from the stock. So anyways, actually I do have this set up where it puts it automatically for you. This is for Elite Gold. I put it in the Elite Gold room a little while back. So if you want to go look and find that, you can set it up on your Thinkorswim chart really easily. So you copy the link from the Elite Gold room, and then you paste it into here. You press open shared item, you type in the link or copy and paste the link, hit open, and you can use them on your chart, and then it'll automatically set up for you. You don't have to type anything in or do any math. So I find them pretty useful. So the next indicator I'm going to talk about today is volume profile. So basically, volume is one of the most important parts of trading, in my opinion, to pay attention to. So when I found out about volume profile, I was pretty ecstatic, because volume profile shows you, so your original volume shows you each candle how much shares have been traded. But volume profile is showing you how much volume is being traded at a certain price. That's the difference. So this one is based on time and the candlesticks, but this one here, volume profile, let me take off my other indicator so you guys can clearly see. So this one here, volume profile, is showing you at what price and how much volume was traded. So it can be very useful for determining key levels. So right here we have our upper point, and it's a little bit hard to explain. So you have this midpoint here, and then you have your high point and low point. So you can use those to your advantage, and so this middle point is about the average price that the stock traded on the day. So going into tomorrow, we can use this level right here, 168, knowing that this is where most of the volume was traded, and we can use that as a line in the sand, so to say. So about 168, and then you have these upper extreme levels where anybody who bought above this level is now underwater, and you can use, most of the time I use volume profile to figure out who is underwater, and in this case most of the shorts from today are about break even, or unless they got in pretty good, and then the longs are maybe underwater a little bit, but this stock really didn't move too great today. It just kind of popped up a little bit, had struggled around $2 and then faded back down. So we'll see with this one tomorrow. Maybe it'll base off 150 and push up into this 170 level. We'll see if it can get past that midpoint, and then we can use this 180 level as another point. And yeah, so it's just another tool in your arsenal that you can use. So personally, I like to use them all together. I don't rely on one all the time, but it's just a great tool to have all these together. And then you combine it with your level 2, your charts, your time and sales. It's a lot to take in, and especially if it's your first time seeing it and you've never worked with pivot points or level 2 or And at the end of the day, guys, I just want you guys to understand that, a lot of people come into this trading world thinking that they can, turn their $100 account into, something ridiculous like $10,000. And at the end of the day, you have people in this industry that are going to try to sell you and tell you that, that is possible. But I'm telling you right now that that is not possible. Maybe, in the most wild sense, because I don't like to say never, but like, it's just very, very unlikely to, start so low and, against all odds come up. And so when you're trading, just understand that, I've been doing this for like 4 years now, and there are still days where, like today on this stock, I completely, it was a winning trade, but it wasn't a good trade. You can have winning trades where you make money, but it's not necessarily a good trade. So my point is, this is not something that's going to be easy and that you can do while you're trying to, it's not something that you should try to get rich doing. You can get rich with the stock market and trading these kind of stocks, but, you kind of want to start out with a little bit of money first and, work your way in slowly. It's going to take, at least a year to get the basics. You'll see people saying, they'll join a certain stock service and they'll say, I doubled my $500 account today. But that's not something that they're going to continually do for the long run. So if you guys are in this for the long run, just know that it's going to take time. This is not easy. I struggle every single day. I have days where I just I want to give up. But, just stay in there. It all makes sense. There's going to be days where it just clicks for you and you'll learn something new and you'll just put that in your arsenal of tools that you have to, work with the market. So it's just, it'll take time. In my opinion, if you don't start making money within 3 years of doing it, maybe it's not for you. And, for some people, it's, trading stocks, it's just not going to be for you. And that's just the hard truth of it. I've had friends who have tried to do it for 2 years straight and they lose money every day just because they don't have the discipline. They don't have the discipline. They don't have the patience. And they'll never have that patience or discipline. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is. And I'm not going to sit here and tell everybody that they can make, $1 million in the stock market, because there's going to be quite a few of you who are not going to be able to do it. And that's just the harsh reality. I'd say, out of 100 people, maybe like 3 or 4 people would be able to do it. It's or less. It's a very, very hard game, and there's going to be a lot of people out here to try to sell you. So here at Enhanced Investor, we like to keep it real with you guys. I like to share what I know, and I'm not really expecting anything in return. We have Elite Gold, and we're doing that lifetime membership sale, which if you're not a part of, you should definitely check that out. Message Jimmy in the chat. He's the one in control of that, but I'm not here to sell you guys anything. I just wanted to show you guys a few of the things that I think are important. I have 2 classes later this week. I'll be going over I'll be going over trading psychology tomorrow. That should be a really, really good one. If you guys can attend that one, I would definitely. I have some good ideas set up for that one. And then on Friday, I'm sharing my favorite trading DVD with you guys. And share a few chapters of it and talk about it. So we have 2 more classes this week planned. Should be good. Right now we could just have a few questions. If you guys have questions, put them in the chat. I will answer them right now. Anything, doesn't have to be anything we talked about today. It could be, it could be anything about the stock market. So just go ahead, ask a few questions. I'm going to wait a couple minutes, see if we get any. Okay, so we got some questions. So somebody asked, what is short interest? So you can just go to Yahoo Finance, and you'll be able to see where it says short interest. Let's see, what else? Risk control limitation spreadsheet. You know, I'm not really sure what you're referring to. I can talk about risk a little bit if you want. Yeah, maybe. I'm not really sure what that means. Is VWAP a good indicator for non-penny stocks like SPY, Amazon? You know, I really don't trade. Oh, okay. Sorry. The very bottom of my screen. Oh, okay. This is just something that SureTrader has. I've never used it. You know, I actually don't know what the risk control limitation is, to be honest with you. But this little thing here just shows you, you know, what the margin rates are and the short size. That's what I use it for. I don't use the risk control limitation. Let's see. So do you use VWAP for non-penny stocks? So I don't trade non-penny stocks usually, but yeah, VWAP can be a pretty good indicator for most stocks. You know, it's not always going to be deadly accurate, but you know, it's a useful tool. You know, right here we failed above VWAP on AMD. So yeah, it can be used, of course. It can be used on any stock. I'm not sure though how on ETFs or ETNs. Can you show how your volume profile is set up? Yeah. So when you go on Thinkorswim, you can actually just, it's pretty simple to install it. Let's see. Studies, add study, all studies, volume profile. There you go. So it just sets up automatically. You don't have to do anything. You know, I changed the color a little bit because I find this color to be a little bit obnoxious, but yeah, so it just sets up automatically. Yes, I will be recording the videos. They'll all be recorded. In ATOS, how do you trade the first 3 hours? Looking at VWAP. How do I trade the first 3 hours? So alright, so when I trade the first 3 hours of the day, oh, and the volume script is just on Thinkorswim. It's not a Elite Gold one. I just showed you guys how to get it automatically in there. So the first 3 hours of the day are the most important. So up until about, well, actually I'd say probably the first 2 hours are the most important part of the day, you know. So in my opinion, if a stock is holding above VWAP past 10:30 and it's already broke the high day, then it could be a good candidate for a run later in the afternoon. But how you would trade this in the first 3 hours of the day, you would just trade it based on your plan. So right here you have this trend line, you know, that you can see. So you could trade based off that trend line. Me personally, if I was trading ATOS today, I would have gone in with a short bias just because the company is dilutive, and I would have felt uncomfortable holding a long on it, and just based on the previous price action. But there was a lot of shares traded today. That is one thing that I'm noticing. So we traded about almost 20 million shares. So tomorrow, you know, as long as we don't break down below this 150 level and maybe we gap up a little bit pre-market, or we push back above 170, we could see something happen with ATOS. But there was just a lot of resistance here in this, above this 175 level. It was just a lot of selling going on. So I wouldn't get my hopes up too much on that one. That'll be on the watch list tonight for sure. So any more questions? I don't think I'm missing any. Last chance for questions, and then that'll probably be it for tonight. But tomorrow we will be having the trading psychology one. It should be good, and it will be recorded. All right, last few seconds here for any questions. I'm sorry if you can hear my dog. He's crying at the door. You meant how do I use the VWAP information? Well, like I said, if a stock is, holding above, okay, so in this exact instance, ATOS, we can see that the stock is holding over and under VWAP. And when I put in alerts or, any message regarding, a price level or VWAP, I don't mean exactly, 170. Let's say I say the stock needs to hold 170. That it can go to 167, 168. It doesn't have to be exactly 170. And same with VWAP. You can see that it's kind of holding a little bit, below it and then above it, below and above it. But overall, it's kind of hanging around this area, kind of like a magnet. So, you can't use it exactly. So, yeah, in the future, I'll go a little bit more in depth on VWAP because that's what it looks like you're looking for. But I'm kind of just trying to keep with the basics here. As you can see here later in the afternoon, about 10, or not in the afternoon, in the morning, about 10:30, we crashed below VWAP, and we just kind of, kept getting rejected here. And then we faded. So, it's a sign of weakness when the stock can't hold above VWAP there. There's not really much I can say more about ATOS unless you have an actual specific question. Do I use VWAP for my entry? Yeah, it depends. So if I see a stock, that I have an idea of, so like VHC today, I didn't use VWAP on this, but I kept it in my head that, the stock is below VWAP at the market open, and it stayed steady below it all day. So, when I grabbed short here, I saw it go below VWAP, and, I guess I kind of used it. Let's see, what was the name of that other stock this morning? ANFI. So this one is a pretty good example of something that could be used for VWAP and ATOS. So here, when it failed above VWAP, you could have grabbed short here because it failed here above VWAP, and so technically you would be using VWAP for an entry as a short in that case. And then ATOS here as well. When it started holding here, VWAP here after about 9:30, could have grabbed along here in the 170s. But the better play, in my opinion, was when it cracked below VWAP at this key time. When it cracked below VWAP at this key time of 10:30, and you see it rejecting continually throughout the day until about 1 o'clock, you could have grabbed short here a few times and, piled up a nice position with a good risk. So that could have been used as a VWAP entry. Let's see, anything else? How do you set an alert for Thinkorswim? Okay, so on desktop or on your computer, you can set an alert by you right click, scroll down to create alert, and you type in whatever it is. So in this case, ATOS, tomorrow I want to know if the stock is going above 170. So you can choose at or above, below, at or below. So in this case, I'm going to choose 170, and so it'll ping my phone and my desktop. So if I want to know if it's going below 150, same thing, just change to at or below. Okay, so that looks like all the questions. Hope you guys learned something tonight. If you did, definitely join tomorrow nights because it's going to be just as good, if not better. do a little bit of trading psychology, which is always important. So thank you guys for joining. Thanks for your time, and I'll see you guys tomorrow night.